Okay, so hi. I'm Shalini. I'm the head of Revv Growth, and I'm here to run a podcast, my first ever podcast with the amazing Katie Kelly. She's a founder with the master brain behind Antiquoted. So thank you so much for joining me, Katie. How are you?
It's my pleasure. I'm good. I'm incredibly busy, but that is a good thing. Um, Especially at this time of year. Not necessarily with paid work, but with things. So still good.
Oh,
Taking it as a will.
I have this I stopped your LinkedIn profile, and then I came up to your recommendations, and I saw there were 33 of them, which means you're extremely good to work with. So how did you do that? Like, what is the secret behind getting that many recommendations? I really love to know.
Okay, so I think really it's because I've had multiple clients and jobs. So I have probably more people to ask than maybe if you've just been in one job, for your entire career at one place. You don't have as many people to ask. So that's one thing. But also, I'm just really religious at asking people. So after I've worked with somebody for about a year, I will reach out and say, obviously, like most of those people, a lot of my clients are on there. I'm still working with them. Um, but there'll become a point about a year in that I'll go, now's a good time to ask. It's also really good for me just to know like what their feedback is. And I ask in other ways about that too. But, recommendations I feel like are a really good way to show off your expertise, especially if you're freelancing. People often want to see recommendations from other people. So knowing that, I've always just, really been hot on any client I've worked with or any employer and colleagues I've had. And I don't always just ask my boss either. I ask colleagues and people that I've worked with, agencies maybe that I've worked with, I've managed, or that I've had relationships with, just to give people a better picture of what it is like working with me. Because, a lot of time now it's remote as well. So people don't get to meet me in person. Um, so yeah, I just thought it was really helpful for people to see that, and it's 2 second job, to send an email and ask.
It is. I was just mind blown looking at those recommendations. I was like, how does she get 33? I mean,
It's so they'd be years, 10 years. So it's not like they were recent. There's one stretching back to my first ever jobs. So
but still, that's great. You really good at building relationships and getting all those recommendations. Because down the line, when I started freelancing, a few years ago, I used to ask, but then I like just keep forgetting to follow up. So I'll be like, okay, just can you drop me a recommendation? And they'll be like, hey, sure. And that's just crickets, no sound, nothing. It's just that they forget and I forget, but it just shows. So Katie, before you started, I've seen your profile and you started this Wanky Bollocks, and then there is Antiquoted. And then I had a chance to listen to your first podcast where you spoke about Wanky Bollocks. Like, how do you find the time to do that with so much going on? Like, you have freelancing, you have Antiquoted going with you, and then there's Wanky Bollocks. And then I see you're a food hero as well. Like, how crazy was that?
so some of those things happen at different times. So the food club that I used to run in Manchester was a long time ago. That was a different part of my life, and that kind of blew up and had its own legs. And I feel like I have these projects that kind of come and go throughout my life that aren't necessarily related to work, but have kind of an influence on what I do and my experience and things like that. So that was something that happened a long time ago. And I'm very honest. I don't like LinkedIn influencers who are like, I do it all and I get up at 5 a.m. and, this is my life. Realistically, I drop the ball all the time. So I'm trying to focus on my freelance work and anti-quoted, which means no Wanky Bollocks has taken a back seat and I haven't been posting stuff regularly. Just because there are only so many hours in the day and I value my mental health above anything else. So um, you know, I'm being realistic. Things do kind of come in and out and weave over time. So yeah, I think don't get the impression from my profile that I am doing all this stuff all the time.
How does she do it all? She has She has so many testimonials. She writes to companies. And, oh my God. And she still, I find, trying to post on me.
Exactly.
The first time I saw your profile, I was totally amazed that how does she do it? Like, she's got everything together. I literally wanted to copy you at one point because I couldn't find the time or the energy to do it. Now I know. Now I know. Honestly do.
Exactly. And this is my fear. Like, I don't want people to think, I don't want people to have unrealistic expectations because it's just not true. Like, the stuff that's listed on there is listed on there because I'm proud of it and it is stuff that I'm currently working on. But I'm not like full time working on all of these things because it just wouldn't be possible. So realistically, No Wanky Bollocks is a blog that I've had for about 7 years. And it's a place for people to share their experiences about working in marketing or advertising, and share predominantly bad behavior or things that have gone wrong or rants about the industry. And so that project is something that kind of manages itself in a way. Like, I reach out to people and ask and invite them to write something for the blog, but I'm not writing it myself. They're writing their own story. So, once you look under the kind of carpet a little bit, you kind of see that these things aren't like as intense as they might make out. So don't worry. I'm not a superhero, superwoman. This is just
Your profile does show that, like, the super pro kind of a person
yeah.
is you got a lot going on. And so, so coming to that, so you said it just kind of happened, the Wanky Bollocks thing. Like, so people write. Have you ever had to edit something so much that, like, you were so worried that you cannot put it on Wanky Bollocks? Why? And you felt like, no, this cannot go. This is too bad to go on. Has that happened, Yago?
No, I don't think so. I think maybe actually that's a lie. Maybe once I think there was something, but it's generally more that people have not followed the guidelines. So there's very few guidelines. There's like 4 or 5, no wanky bollocks being one, and like not trying to make out that something bad happened so that you have an excuse to try and show off. Again, like a lot of people do on LinkedIn, like, oh no, I just have too many sales right now. I can't manage. My life is so difficult. Like, come on, like that's not
That's not the place for Wanky. Exactly.
no. So I think maybe there's been the occasion once in 7 years where somebody's written something and I'm like, come on, there's no actual genuine story behind this. You're just trying to say stuff to make yourself look good. Which obviously wouldn't go down with this. It has happened, yeah. On the wholes, yeah, I mean, I edit very, very lightly because these are other people's stories. So I edit for clarity only and like the odd spellings and spelling mistakes and things like that. But other than that, I don't touch people's work. The only thing I ask is just to make sure that it's not demeaning or hateful to anyone and it's not libelous. So it's not going to get me in trouble. But otherwise, people can tell their stories and that's the platform I wanted it to be. So I'm not so worried about like how people have written stuff because I want them to write in their own voice. So
That's understandable. Okay. I also listened to your first podcast, and you told me that the idea of Antiquoted came because you had to do a lot of like work as a freelancer to get those codes. So, ideally, when you started building Antiquoted, how difficult was it for you? Like, finding all those people to join, making them, convincing them to join. How did you do that? Like, did it happen on its own, or people actually say like, hey Katie, I'm good in this, I'm gonna come and join your thing? Because that never happens. How did it happen for you?
so it's still happening. It's still early days. I haven't actually checked. I think we have about 500 contributors on Antiquoted. So it's still very, very small. And it has predominantly been growth from social media. So when I first started talking about Antiquoted, one of my posts went particularly viral. I think because a lot of people feel the frustration that I did around still having male only panels in business events, still having or hearing continually from the same people, and not really seeing many new voices or diverse voices in business media. And I think it just resonated with a lot of people, and a lot of people were like, yeah, we need this. It's about time. And because the brand and the way that I say things is fairly honest, and not very fluffy. Like I'm so fucked off with this. A little bit sweary and just kind of cut through. I think it got seen by more people. I think my frustrations were felt by people. So I think that helped to attract the people that I want to attract, those people that feel frustrated, the people that are underrepresented. So far, the social media has helped get the word out there. Other than that, I've been trying to get partnerships with groups for diverse voices. So your women in X groups, different community groups that support diverse voices. And I've been trying to get them to promote Antiquoted to their communities. Other than that, we did a trial with some free credits on LinkedIn. And so this is all bootstrapped. So there's no big investor. There's no, we're not kind of rolling in it. And right now, Antiquoted is completely free. So it's not monetized in any way. So we're not making any revenue from this. So it's been very slow and organic growth, but it's still been very positive, and we're still kind of growing every day without much kind of work going into it. So really what needs to happen now is I need to pull my finger out and do a lot more marketing work around getting it out there. But yeah, I mean, we don't have budgets, so it will be free or earned media to get out there.
I think it's gonna catch up because people are looking at content and they feel okay, this because right now I put in a keyword and I see there are 10 articles that talks literally about the same. So one person copies from the other person, and it's the content on the internet or on the first page is literally the same. And now people, after the Google algorithm change, people are looking at adding experiences. Yes, true, but finding those experiences has been like a challenge for me as well, because I reach out to people, they're either busy or I'm not important enough. So I think that's how I actually came across Antiquoted, because I was frustrated going behind people. Yes, I was just losing myself thinking, talking to them on LinkedIn, sending them an email. It was really frustrating, and I thought, no, there should be a better way. Like somebody should have thought of this. And that's how I actually ended up on a different platform, not yours in the beginning. Okay. And that was called Leaps. I thought, okay, that was something what it does. And then I finally figured, no, anti-coded is different and Leaps is different. So for people who don't know anti-coded, what would be your two two line statement or something that will ask people to join? What does it do?
Yep. So great question, and still have not nailed my elevator pitch. Um, Depends who I'm talking to. So if you are an individual who wants to build your own personal profile, command a better salary in your job, you want your peers to respect you, you want to get your name out there, then signing up to Antiquoted means that the media people will come to you and invite you to maybe give a quote for an article, invite you to be on a podcast, or invite you to speak at events. You don't need any media contacts. You don't need to have a PR person, which traditionally you did need those things to get those sorts of media opportunities. So what I'm really trying to do is give a free place for anyone who wants to build their profile and share their stories and expertise in business. It's a free place. You just sign up and then the requests come to you. On the other side, if you are someone working in content, if you're a journalist or a content writer, a podcast host, or you're organizing events, then often it's like you just said, it's super hard to get people to want to kind of contribute to your content. And also, I've used a lot of the other platforms. Unfortunately, there's a lot of spam. People are just using AI. A lot of the time as well, when
Out. I I was I did once for one a guest blog that I was writing, and I was just no, I was just bamboozled with so much of AI content. I didn't know what I could have got it from ChatGPT. It was that rubbish. It was the same. I had three people literally send me the same answer. I know it. The struggle is real. So how? So I can just come into Antiquoted, give a question and people would respond to. Is that how people respond to it?
Exactly. So you make a request, and the difference is because we're targeting real individual people who aren't trying to get an SEO backlink, it's a different response. So their motivations are different. A lot of the competitors are trying to get like the CEO of these big companies who have PR representatives who write their responses for them. So you're not even getting their real voice or story. You're not getting anything of depth. Or it's managed by their SEO company who just care about the backlink. It's a numbers game and they'll just write it using AI. So that's why there's a big problem, I think. So what I'm trying to do is connect real individual people who do the work every day, who want to share these experiences and knowledge with people like you and I who are writing content and want genuine stuff. So yeah, you can just go on Antiquoted, you can say what you're looking for, what type of people, and then you can either choose to search our database and one-to-one invite who you want. So you're in control of who can respond rather than just letting anybody respond on the platform. Or you can choose to make it an open request and then anyone on the platform can respond. And it's just a click of accept or decline if you want to use the quote, for example. So trying to make it super easy for both sides.
Wow. Okay. So now that you have mentioned the way Antiquoted works, how do you ensure that these people on Antiquoted don't use a PR agency or they don't do that? How do you cross verify? What do you do so that it does not become spam?
Yes, good question. First of all, the marketing. So I'm trying to attract the right people. I'm not copying competitors or working in the same spaces as them. Everything from our messaging. There's even an FAQ on the homepage that says, I'm a PR person. How do I get my client on here? And the answer is you don't. Uh, we'll try. I'm trying to make it kept clear. Obviously, right now we're still super small, so we don't have any kind of automated way, but manually I am looking at who's signing up. And I think there's been one person who's signed up to represent their client, and I did message them saying, hey, it needs to be the email of the person. You can't, this is not really what the platform's for. And so right now it is very manual. As we scale, that will be a bigger question. I do think that our marketing and who we're for will really help that because I think the people that are the CEOs with their PR agencies will recognize that this isn't necessarily the space for them. And also they're wanting to go after like really top tier media outlets. So the traditional newspapers, media outlets. And that's not who I really want to work with. I want to work with more individual content creators you maybe still have the same readership, but are doing it for a business or a SaaS company, or they're doing their own individual podcast that's got a massive audience. And I think those two people are very different from maybe some of the other people in the space. So I'm hoping that the marketing and branding helps that. But yeah, in the future, we may have to set some kind of controls.
I think your marketing might help a little too much. The PR people would come. Like, hey, let's go check out Antiquoted. That was the reason I really thought because I actually came through your social profile. I looked at Antiquoted through your social profile. I did not know something existed that sort. But then I thought, hey, this is good. This is exactly what I'm looking for without that crowd because I tried signing up with another similar website. I'm still on the wait list. I don't even know when I'll be in, and I mailed them twice and thrice. I'm still on the wait list, and I don't know how to get to it. So I thought, okay, let's try to use what I have, and that's actually how I came to use Antiquoted. And I really loved it because it's simple. Yeah, it's simple. That's it's clear. I don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand how that works, and it's really easy. So that's really great. So now, when you started creating Antiquoted, like you would have probably been working on a full time role or a freelancing role, isn't it? So if when you did that, like what actually inspired you to do that? Like were you waiting on somebody and they did not respond, and then that really irked you, and then you decided, no, I'm going to solve this because I heard from your podcast you're a problem solver. So so is that the inspiration, or was that something else?
it was a bit of both. So I was working, doing freelancing, a lot of freelancing at the time, but in particular, doing a lot of these kind of roundup posts for clients where they wanted expert opinions to be the basis of the article. And then I'd kind of write around the arguments that they made. And the space that I was writing about, the topic, is quite a small industry anyway. So there aren't hundreds of thousands of people that are potential people I can reach out to. It's quite a small audience. And I'd been doing this type of work over the course of maybe 12 to 18 months. And so by that point, you're like, I'm really struggling. I'm now can't really find many more people. Like, I've exhausted the network. And the problem was the same people would respond each time to my requests. So then the content I'm writing is just this, like, it's the same people every time. And it's not what I wanted to do. And it wasn't particularly diverse or representative. It's not what my client wanted. And so I thought, okay, I spend hours and hours and hours a day trying to find new people on LinkedIn. And then I have to message them. And then they get confused because I actually had this thing a couple of times where I would ask people for a quote and they thought I meant a financial quote, as in like services. And I'm like, because you're on this platform, it's like, do this in person. And at least what are they asking for? Because again, I'm going after people that haven't been PR trained. I'm not going after the CEO who has a representative. I'm going after, people who work the job, a project manager who may have never given or been asked to give a quote or an article before. So they're not aware of how this thing works. And that's what kind of triggered me to go, it would be really good if I could help educate people on that side of how this works, how beneficial it is to them. Like, you can, if you have a good reputation and you're quoted in media, you can command a higher salary. You could get noticed in a really crowded job market. There's lots of benefits for them. But the way that I was currently doing it, and especially in terms of diverse voices, that was even harder. So for every person that I tried to recruit who was from a diverse background, it probably took me about 20 more outreaches to different people to get one person to say yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, how did you manage your time, your project? This if it's going to take 20 hours for one person and you have a deadline on a project, how did you even make it work?
Well, difficulty, which is why you end up then relying back on the people that are quick and used to responding, which are predominantly from specific groups that are already asked a lot. And so you don't end up with the range of opinions, the diversity, or the kind of depth of insights that you might get if you're asking people that haven't been asked before or people from different backgrounds. So it was really tricky. Because I was working on this so often, this type of project, though, it did mean that if people didn't come back to me in time for that article, because I was writing about the similar topics quite regularly, I could then say, actually, can I keep you in mind for future? And so what started to happen was I needed a little black book. LinkedIn is terrible, terrible to keep track of who.
Okay. Messages. I know. Like I tried doing sending a message and try to backtrack and I see that I have to go from the beginning every single time.
Yeah.
I know. What am I doing? But I have to work on the leveraging platform. Yeah.
Exactly. So I said to my husband, who actually is the tech behind Antiquoted, I think maybe what we need to build is almost like a little black book. I know this stuff already exists, like there's lots of CRMs, but I need something where I can like do X, Y, and Z, and I want to contain this information. And so we actually built that. So that's hidden somewhere in the back of Antiquoted. It's not visible anymore because we kind of realized that actually that wasn't the full problem. It was finding the people in the first place. So that's how we originally built it. And then we kind of just iterated from there. And as it kind of started getting traction, we've changed things and built new things. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey.
Wow, that's like a full-on roller coaster kind of a journey that you've had. Just like, finding people. So when did you actually realize having this unique voices in your content makes a difference? Because I did not realize that at least a few years ago. I was in my own bubble thinking that okay, I find the information and I write it. But then after a point it just happened. I just happened to notice the other content which was sounding like mine or I was sounding like them. because there was nothing else to do. And I thought, like, how do I make it better? So I did that accidentally. But how did it happen for you? Like, when did you realize that? Or did you realize throughout your full time roles? How did you come to know that you need to add that voice or, bring in SMEs for a content to perform well?
So I'd love to say that it is all through my own knowledge and the goodness of my heart and etc. I think the reality is because I was doing it so often, I could really easily see that I just kept getting the same people and stuff started to feel very similar. And then kind of think, there's a problem here. Like my client's going to be like, why? I'm sure you've already written this last time. And it's like, no, 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 this is a different article. So I think it kind of sprung from that. I mean, I've always felt annoyed by representation and the lack of. I've been to events where, we've had all male panels with a room full of women and we're all just kind of sat there like, why is this still a thing in 2024? So yeah, and I think the other thing that kind of brings it home to me is when I write topics about things that I really don't know. I have to sometimes write about things like statistical analysis and what different models of statistical analysis are better than another. I don't have a degree in statistics or mathematics, not the right person, but I am a writer. So I seek the people that have that knowledge. And so, yeah, so I could see the value in reaching out to these experts and going, okay, explain to me like a 2-year-old what the difference is between Bayesian and frequentist statistics. And, then I can use that to like go off and realize, okay, I need to ask this. Or I ask the questions that I read 10 blog posts and I'm still like, but they didn't answer this question because they don't really know what they're writing about either. And it's very service level. And so I'll write down all the questions that I'm like, well, actually, hang on a second. How is it really different? Like, explain to me why. Like, you've given me pros and cons, but what's the actual difference? And so I'll get those questions and then I'll go to someone who really understands it and ask them. And it just makes your content so much better because you're answering the real questions that most people probably have when they read everything else.
So now you just told me that you ask people and you find, okay, no, this does not work, and you dive deeper into that question. So how do you know that is the problem the other person might have? Is it because you are having it, you feel that that might be a problem, or like, how do you approach that? Consider you're writing about statistical analysis and you really want to address the challenges of that particular topic. So how do you go about adding this voice as an answer to that? How do you actually identify those challenges?
I search. So I look at frequently searched questions. I look at, depending on which space it's in. I mean, there's often like Facebook groups or Reddit groups, whatever. So, for example, if I'm talking about statistical analysis, I'll search through LinkedIn or I'll search through groups and I'll see what questions people are genuinely asking. One of the series I do for one of my clients is all around frequently asked questions where I get an expert to answer FAQs or someone.
Great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea and it's going to rank really well. Wow, I'm going to see that.
Yeah. Feel free. But it does mean that I constantly need to kind of go out and look and think, okay. And I mean, you can just go and ask people as well. But quite often I do think myself, I'll read something. And I'm one of those people that when I was at school, I'd be the first one with my hand up, like never, like no social fear of looking stupid or asking stupid questions. So I tend to think most people have them, they just don't vocalize them. So I would, yeah,
Yeah, sure. I know I had this mind block for a real long time. I didn't want to ask. I said, what would they think? Like, I'm this person who's doing something, and what would they think of me? And then after a point, I decided it's okay. I didn't think anything of me. 'Cause I just honestly don't know. But it's okay. It's okay if I was stupid at some time. Just everybody.
I just had one before this call. My client messaged me in a piece of content and wrote, "Can you change all of the H2 tags, H1 tags to H2?" And I'm like, "But I thought there should be one H1 in a piece of content, and then everything's H2 or H3." So now I'm questioning myself, and I'm like, so it's like one of those like really simple. I'm gonna have to go and Google it afterwards because I'm like, hang on a second. When I'm like, I should know this, and I can't ask. I feel like I can't ask publicly because obviously I'm now doing it on this podcast. But I think people often have these things and they're too shy to like just say, actually, I didn't know.
Exactly. What would they say? Ryan? Like, okay. So now that you have told, like, do your research, like every other geeky person that I meet, I thought you have some superpower in that, go and do something different. But yeah, I understand. So now that you have done, like I did look at your portfolio, your LinkedIn, and I see that you have also been CRO, you've done CRO conversation starters, you've done a lot of that. So when you've done all of that, and then now you've been a freelance writer, why did you transition? Like, is there something like that made you like, I don't want to do CRO anymore, I will go into content? Like, what inspired you to do that?
Well, most of the content I write is about CRO. I didn't escape it.
Oh, you stuck with that.
Yeah. So my last in-house position was as the COO at Bureau, which used to be called CXL Agency. So that was specialist experimentation agency. And I've been in that space in CRO for maybe 10 plus years. Again, like it's quite a small industry. So I know it very well. I've written about it, I've marketed it, I've sold it, I've helped operationalize it. I know a lot about it. So it kind of was a natural fit. I think I had some personal stuff going on and I had to leave Spiro, which I was actually glad about because I loved working there. It's a great team. And so after that point, when I left that role, it kind of left a bit of a void. And I've kind of been in and out of freelancing over the years in between roles. I thought, okay, maybe I should take this a bit more seriously and actually give it a proper go rather than it being like a filler in between jobs.
So I was just looking and I thought, okay, so she's a CRO person. I didn't know you write about CRO also. Because I didn't get the chance to look at it. So why CRO? Like, what exactly do you write? Which industry do you write for? CRO in, is that a specific industry you cater to?
So I generally work with A/B testing tools and agencies that offer experimentation A/B testing services. The reason why I write for this industry is because it's so good to have a niche rather than say, I do content writing. Obviously, there's no point just going out to the market and saying that because you're anything from anyone and no one will be interested. So, I'm very specific on what I do. I do have clients outside of that specialism, such as in an innovation or running I've just doubled down on that. I know what I know really well. I can do it really well. And I market myself as kind of very high level, high quality work in that space. So yeah, my clients could just tell me, go and write about statistical analysis or write about, 10 psychological principles that help in onboarding that you could apply. And I can go and write it because I've been writing about this stuff for 10 years. So
After you've gone freelancing, like once you're into freelancing, do you like it? Didn't you miss your full-time role anytime? Like, because usually in freelancing, there is this feast of famine thing going on. That I've been a part of, like, there for everybody until you have a good standard pipeline that, it's there. So,
and even when you do have that pipeline, eventually it will go. And then you're back, it's a never ending thing.
yeah, you
Yeah, I feel that like I've had clients that I worked with for 6 years, but obviously things come to an end and through no fault of my own or their own, there comes a point where they're like, actually, we think we're gonna do something different this year. And then I'm like, oh and then you're back to just square one fear of what do I do? How do I build?
So how do you deal with it? Like, what happens when you lose it? Line? Like, you panic. Then what do you do?
Well, I've had that little lesson for myself recently because I got really busy over summer and I did what I tell people not to do, which is took my own foot off the gas in terms of promoting myself. So, everything was great. I've got loads of work. I don't need to promote myself. So I stopped. And then, the wrap up to Christmas, everyone's like, actually, we don't need stuff this quarter or this month. And I'm like, oh, hang on a second. Shit. I don't have any work now.
I know, like it goes great and then it doesn't.
It happens. There's a few things that help me. I have a financial buffer. I have saved money early on in my career so that I am in a position where I'm able to do that. I recognize not everyone's in that position. I would say it gives you a lot more breathing room because I think if you don't have that, at least a small buffer, it becomes very, very difficult to be a freelancer. And yeah, just constantly marketing yourself even through the good times. That's a very, very important thing to do. Yeah, and I just try not to be salesy. So I tend to try and promote myself in a non-salesy way. I don't want to be like hard selling to people. So yeah, it is really tricky. And I have lots of mental health issues and anxiety and stress. And I go to yoga a lot and speak to my doctor, and it's not all rosy all the time. But it does allow you a level of freedom, especially if you do have like illnesses or you have a lifestyle that, a lot of working mothers, for example. I personally travel a lot. So, it's allowed me to go and work in Vietnam, Singapore, Thailand in the last year. I went and popped off to Cambodia for a bit. So this kind of flexibility is what I require, what I want in my life. So that's why I've actively chosen to freelance. So
Wow, that's really weird. Choosing to travel with work is a dream come true. Someday I do that. Just not now, but someday. That's a dream. That's for true.
let me know when you come over. I said,
That's
let me know when you come over to where I'm at that point.
I know I really do want to. It's just that, I was also stuck in a fix for a number of years, or for a number of months. And by the time I realized, okay, let me get into the wagon again, let me go find a work. It was really difficult, but because by then AI had come into picture in this showing the talent, like showing that I deserve it or showing that I could do this as a content person was really difficult. Yeah. So that did not actually let me to have those dreams at that point, like to travel and to work, because I was so scared. It was like, come on, I was not getting any job. That was happening for around 6, 7 months. And people are also jobless. I follow a really lot of amazing people on LinkedIn, and a few of them they were equally, I felt they were better than me at certain points. They were also searching for jobs. And I was like, how is that even possible? They're so good. And then the AI came, and then that was scary. So so that dream was like, I did not even think of the dream. It was just unattainable for me. After I got a job, or after I realized that might be the problem is not AI, the problem is something with me. It's like for me to, become better, or to learn, or to do something better. Because what I learned before AI was totally different. Post AI, it was completely different, because before that, even the first draft, research, everything I had to do from scratch. Like, so it was 100% manual effort that was going. But with AI, it got improvised. Everything was done. Like people were literally creating articles out of AI. So the kind of that is the time actually when I realized, no, this is not the way we could go forward. How do I stand out? How do you differentiate your content? Like, how do you, it's not even for a personal person, like not for just for me, as a business, or if there's going to be some business, how do they do it? How can we do it for them? That was what triggered my, I used to do it, but not on a full-fledged scale, because as I told you, finding those people, getting them to respond was a huge challenge for me. We're just not doing it at one point. So I had to really struggle.
Yeah. But
But I get
I totally feel you. And I think so many other people, especially in our industry, are feeling the fear. And like you said, when you see so many people out of work and then AI as well, it's like, what am I doing? How am I going to make money next year? Like, is there even still going to be a market for me to make enough money?
true.
I do think
What do you think? Where do you think?
so. It's great for me. I think AI will take the bomb out of the market. So I think for the very low end, cheap content that AI can write fairly well, I think that is going to go to AI. And I think people that were doing that manually up until this point will need to change what they're offering and what they're doing. I think personally for me, what I've done is tried to go up market. So focus on quality, focus on more journalistic style content, or highly researched, original research in content, or again, using experts building relationships. There's other sides to content that's not just about writing and sharing information. You can build relationships through writing content, and you can showcase really interesting stories that no AI can create unless it's hallucinated and it's all fictional. So, I think there's still enough work to go around. I think it's just going to be at a better level. And to be honest, maybe that's a good thing. Like, if we can all offer slightly higher end content, get paid a little better, I think that's a good thing. And also, I think it'll just make the internet more interesting, because right now, if everything's just AI generated, and if this is what companies are doing and putting on their websites, it's going to be very boring for real humans to read. Um, so I think there will be a bit of a rebellion next year. I think consumers want, if they are consuming stuff, they want really interesting, insightful, new angles, not just regurgitation of what already is there. So let AI do that. That's really boring anyway. I don't think most content writers want to do that kind of stuff. No, you and I can focus on the more interesting stuff where we talk to real people.
So true. I totally agree with that. So if consider I'm a newbie, I'm coming to you and I'm asking, so okay, please help me get my first job. Like, let me do something. Like, what would you tell them? Like, as a content person, like, so she's this person who wants to write content, create content. So what would be your, you know, like, hey, you do this. This is the only thing you should do. Don't go do the other things. What would be your
So I actually just answered, yeah, so I just answered this. I've been mentoring, I've forgotten the name of the mentorship company, but with this wonderful content writer who wants to get into content and PR. She's based in Nigeria, and she's been asking me the same question, like, how do I, where do I go from here? What do I do? My advice is stay away from platforms like Upwork. I know some people have made a lot of money on these platforms, but they are, again, very much beating people down on price. It's the lowest of the low. It's so competitive. It's just a race to the bottom. And personally, I've never been able to get work on there. I know some people have, but I think they've built up a reputation, and that's like the top tier of people that have built their profile on that platform that kind of succeed. Instead, what I would suggest is focus on building your own personal brand on other platforms. So, for example, most people that start out haven't got a portfolio of work. So you could start your own blog. What would be even cooler is if you found guest posting opportunities on media sites that are already reputable or exist, and you can go and write your heart out, write your best piece of work. Yes, it's probably going to be unpaid for the first couple of guest posts, but you then have something to show potential clients and say, look, here's this piece I wrote on something that is relevant to your industry that I'm really passionate about. Here's an example of my work that happens to be posted on this third-party website. It gives you more credibility. And I think it's a really nice way to show off your work before you have clients that, are paying for that kind of stuff to get you there. So that's what I would do. And I would be promoting myself on LinkedIn and trying to make as many personal one-to-one connections, old school, real human stuff. Obviously it's difficult being remote, but you can still do it online. I do it on LinkedIn. Yeah. And just try and engage with people in a non-salesy way, be interested in what they're doing, learn, and share what you've learned online. And that's a really good way to start building that profile.
I think that's not just people or freelancers should do. I think that everybody should do, irrespective of they get a job, they don't get a job. It's okay, because right now with AI and everything, more important that you have something of your own. It's something that you created. So now that we're talking about AI, what do you think about these AI detectors and content? What do you think? Do you think it's important? It's needed? Do businesses actually have to have that?
I sighed. That might not have been audible, but I did sigh. I personally haven't experienced them. I have seen a lot of conversations about them online. They seem very hit and miss in terms of their accuracy. I've seen people complaining that their work's getting flagged when 100% none of it created by AI. Are they? And I guess my question would be, why does the company care? Like, for me, the metric should be based on the content itself. Like, is it written well? If you've used AI to help you, but it's an amazing piece of content, then I don't see that as a problem. Um, if it's poorly written, then there's a problem. Like whether AI wrote it and you wrote it, like it's a problem.
Still not. Yeah, got it. So what according to you is a great content? What do you think makes a great content?
Personally, I prefer content that's written in a very simplistic and often humorous way. I think there's a lot of very boring content online, especially in the B2B space. Like, I think people forget that they're writing for humans. Like, yes, it might be work related, but I don't want to bore myself to death. Like, I do want to be entertained. I probably want to find out the answer to something, or I want to, read something that's interesting, that excites me, that inspires me. So often it's just very formal, very formulaic, very boring, very standard. And it's just too much. So I think I actually said this on a previous podcast. Like for me, um, I think the measure of a good piece of content is whether somebody wants to share it socially on their own social media platforms. Because I think that's a real measure of someone saying, yeah, this is actually really genuinely good. Because we don't tend to do that.
Other than the writer, right? Other than the writer.
Yes, other than generally people geek to promote it. A real human that doesn't have a commercial relationship or any reason why they should, if they share it, I think that's a very good metric in terms of what you've written is really valuable because a real human actually read it and thought.
Now that you've said that it has to be shared, I have seen a lot of content. Like recently, I had the opportunity to work with a really great editor, and so the content, her expectations were not met. She was sending it back to me like so many times. At one point, I was my team and myself. We were just so tired. Like, how do we satisfy her? But I really liked the way she worked because she was an amazing editor. And if you work with her guys, I think you don't even need any course because she gives you all that knowledge free. But then I also felt that because we were writing for a really dry topic, something more of a technical topic, like probably data governance or something of that sort. How do you think you could incorporate humorous twists to something as technical a topic like this? Like, do you use analogies? Do you use personal stories? How do we bring that? Yeah, so that's really difficult for a topic like data governance. So let's say statistics. How do you do it?
I obviously it depends on the brand and whether they're willing to allow the tone of voice to be like that. I think that's often the first stumbling block. But I mean, if that's the case, I can't remember who it is. I wish I could remember the name, but there's companies, for example, that do like their app update notifications and they're hilarious, or their release notes, when they update their software and they're just brilliantly written. When have you ever read release notes? When have you shared them online? I mean, people have. I can't remember the company name. Um, but there's some great examples out there of making very boring things funny and interesting and engaging. I think being in that, like trying to think like a comedian, like being funny, I think humor is a great way to make things interesting. But also, like we've already spoken about, personal stories. So just so often people would tell me stuff, and I think again it's the quality of how you ask questions. But like, a- ask the delving questions that are going to bring out those stories. Quite often when you first ask someone for a quote, you're getting like what they think they should be writing. So they're giving you a quote, a definition style type thing. And it's like, that's not what I'm after. Tell me about the time you did this and it went wrong. Tell me about what this could mean to you in your job. Or, give me something that like I can really relate to. And I think that's much more valuable than just getting kind of quotes. So yeah, there's tons of ways to do it.
Wow, I really, really like that way because when I ask, a lot of people send me a standard definition quotes.
Yeah.
Like I did this. It was very standard, but I have not actually delved into their stories and not asked them these questions. But I'm gonna ask them these questions.
Yeah. And let's you've done today, like stalk them online, read some of their posts. They might have talked about stuff already that you can then go. Quite often with No Wanky Bollocks, I'll see someone's posted something, a really interesting story, and I'll reach out to them and say, I want to know more about this story. Can you come and write about it? Often there's already stuff out there that you can kind of jump off from.
Now that you told me this, what other ways do you think a content can be made interesting? Humorous is one. And what other brands you've actually felt like, hey, they've done a really good job. I think I must steal them. Like, that the concept.
I'm trying to think. I'm not good at remembering specific brand names. I mean, there's a ton of stuff out there. I think just trying to, like right now, LinkedIn just feels the same. Like I scroll through and everyone's doing these similar style posts with similar formats. I'd say look at what everyone else is doing and just when they're zigging, zag. So if everyone else is doing one thing, just do the opposite. Like do something else. Brainstorm crazy ideas. What's the worst that can happen? Write a blog post that actually a win. Write it in people form. Do something crazy. Like why does it have to be all the same? Actually, somebody I really now I'm thinking about this. The guys at Superpar, which is actually a bit of a competitor of Antiquoted, but really really good guys. Love them. Their newsletter is great, and Eric writes this interesting little bit, and it's just really personal about his day or what's happening in his week. And I genuinely read it every time I get the newsletter because he writes it in such a way that I feel like I'm getting to know him. It's almost like a bit of a diary entry. It's written as if it's speaking to me personally. So I mean, you can do really cool stuff just with tone of voice, and you don't need much more than that. Just think about writing genuinely as opposed to trying to meet an aim or a goal or certain H1 topics or content pillars. Just think what's actually going to be interesting that people want to read, and that probably will do more for your brand than hitting certain keywords and things. But yeah,
Okay. But now that you said if you make it interesting, people are going to read it. And so do you think like is SEO kind of something that we should tie into this, like use more of keywords, or just make it like stuff? Just don't worry about the keywords. Write that drives, write content that drives value, and it's going to work. What do you think would work? Like it right now, now in we are in 2025. What do you think would actually take the cake? Like writing for the keywords and then adding in value, or writing to the people and then adding in the keywords?
it's a great question, and I have a horrible answer, which is it depends. So I think depending on the business you're writing for, if it's a really highly like if they get their business through search and it's really competitive and that's really important to them, often more lower value products in the B2C space, then obviously it makes sense. I get it. I don't think that that means you should still make boring content. I just think that it means you should pay more attention to SEO in interesting content. However, I've tended to work more for B2B space where it's, small number of sales volume. It's more about building relationships. It's more about brand. And I think in those cases, SEO becomes less important because you're building a brand that people will search out themselves because of what you do. They're not starting from, give me all the CRO agencies into Google and then selecting one based on that. I mean, it does happen, but it's not predominantly how these kind of relationships and sales happen. They happen because they saw some thought leadership content that was really interesting. They saw CEO posting something. They saw this article that helped them out of a sticky situation, and then they get in touch. So I think in that sense, SEO is less important. But yeah, so it kind of depends on your business model and if you're going.
Okay, but in 2025, what do you think might rule? Like, do you think no, this might go down a bit? Personally, what do you see becoming a popular thing?
Personally, I'm not an expert in SEO, so I wouldn't want to answer that. I definitely am not educated enough in the space to know what I think is going to happen. From a different perspective, though, from my perspective, I think, like I said earlier, interesting content will become more important as we get even more AI. I mean, we already are drowning in content and stuff online, and now it's just going to get more boring. So I think, like I said, zig and zag. It's time to zag. It's trying to make more interesting content, not just churning out this kind of AI rubbish. So yeah.
I agree. I totally agree. So now that I've almost used up your hour. Like, I just have like 4 minutes. So let's keep something light. What was the recent joke that literally made you laugh? Like you heard that and you were just totally blown off. Like, wow, that was an amazing joke. So what was your recent joke?
I should have loads because I just went to the Edinburgh Fringe this summer. And so I spent a week watching comedians, but I can't remember any off the top of my head or any that would be suitable for this podcast. I don't know. I think I have very British humor. So I tend to laugh at kind of things going wrong, kind of very dry humor or things that maybe other cultures wouldn't find as funny, more ironic things. Again, this is really interesting point of view though, because again, if you're writing content for an international audience, you need to be aware that things that you find funny or references often like have no understanding. Again, spending 5 years in Singapore and seeing what people found funny there is very different from British humor.
Not funny here.
Yeah,
And please.
exactly. So I don't have anything specific other than just go on LinkedIn and you'll probably have a laugh. Just really in 5 minutes of seeing the content on there. So yeah.
Yeah. I, yeah. I, in fact, there was a time when LinkedIn people used to give so much of knowledge and all of that. And now people genuinely post jokes there. And like, I have come across a few of them and I literally laughed out. Like, there was this meme I saw once where like I think that was even posted by us where this person had posted that editing for the 600 and 789 time and there is this doll that keeps doing something on the laptop crazily and I thought yes we do that like we do ed-
That way.
edit like multiple times and that literally made me laugh again but that wouldn't make my husband laugh or my children laugh because they don't get you don't live the life of a content person. So I agree. So what's your favorite food? Now that you're a food hero, what was your favorite food? What was the one beautiful memory that you had from that? And why did you actually close that? That's a great idea. Why didn't you just continue with that food club?
The food club was something I did in person. So when I left the UK, I couldn't continue it. So it was a meetup of people that we would meet up every month at a different restaurant, and I would get the restaurant to serve something that they'd never done before on the menu. The more unusual, the better. So we ate crazy food, like really crazy ingredients, presented in crazy ways. At one point, there was I think it was a 13 roast, which was a roast inside up to an ostrich that had to be brought out on a stretcher. And these events kind of got bigger and bigger and more crazy. And, in the end, we were having I think we had 70 people eating dinner at once, taking over the entire restaurant. So it was amazing. And yeah, I still have very fond memories of gastric.
I love that idea, you know. I literally love it. I thought I wanted to do it like here in India. Like grab this crate. I saw like I love food. Yeah, and then I thought like how can somebody do this crazy? But yeah, with this I like meeting people.
It happened because I put a tweet out and that was it. And people just said, yeah, I wanna do this. Let's meet up and do it. And that's how it started. And then it ran for 3 or 4 years every month and just got progressively crazier and crazier. Yeah.
So just how do you manage to bring it all together? Like where did you talk? Online? Tweet?
It was on a Twitter, yeah, back in the day on Twitter. And then I had a newsletter where I would send out each month the menu with a link to sign up to the event. I think in the end I had to ask for deposits because it got so big. And then you reserved your space and that was it. And people on their own, so they weren't in big groups. And I would kind of try and match make conversations. So I'd introduce every single person that came in. I would be the host and we'd all sit on these big tables together with people we didn't know and we'd have a 4-course meal and just chat. Yeah. It wasn't to do with business. It was
How did you pay? How did you pay? All of them paid for their meals?
yeah, everyone just paid individually. Yeah.
Okay, so each of them can get one portion of food and you share it.
It was all served, so it was single plate of food per person often. We didn't do so many sharing things. But yeah, it was you'd buy your you'd pay for your meal. It'd be like a set menu. And then, yeah, you'd go and just enjoy the food. And it was great. It was crazy.
Oh, that's just like when I read that, I was like, okay, that's crazy. How did you get the idea and how did she even do that? I thought, okay, let me ask towards the end. Because we're gonna have some crazy
Really random. It was all, I follow stupid things, stupid thoughts. So, like, when I was at uni, I decided I wanted to celebrate everything. You know how they have like
that was the most no, that was the most beautiful thing that I found on your right? Because I saw your experience and I was like, oh my god, she's done so much. And like because I don't have that kind of exposure or experience, might be because life happened with me and I I chose not to have those experiences because I prioritize something else. Yeah. But then now that I won't do all that, I find myself a little hesitant. Do I do it? Do I have the time? And then I came across your profile and I saw she's done some food hero thing. Like, how is that even tied up to content or marketing or like how? And that was beautiful, getting to meet people and getting crazy fun.
disclaimer, I don't have children. That happened maybe 9 years ago. Like, this is over a lifetime. So don't judge yourself. And there's still plenty of time. It
Just also, I go with that. I got that as soon as you told me about your recommendations. I did get. I just okay. Just got over 10 years, which is like okay, good.
over a lifetime. So yeah, don't worry. Don't worry.
Yeah, but still doing that, I don't mind you doing it 9 years earlier, but just randomly doing that, it's like it just adds on to your life. Like yeah, it's like a beautiful memory. Like you don't have to only talk about marketing or content or AI or anti-coding. We get to have these food experiences and like you still remember the ostrich thing on that. That was cool.
I still have people mentioning it to me in Manchester, like mad.
Complete the entire food. How many people did it take to complete it?
I think in the end we had over 1,000 people on the mailing list, and I think I just said like, yeah. And then I was like, I'm leaving the UK, and I thought about like continuing it or trying to do other stuff, and then I thought sometimes it's better to go out on a high, and some things just come to an end. Like I was saying before with clients, like, and so I wanted to.
You just threw a newsletter to 1,000 people. You should be funding something that.
Yeah, and then at SBO, I killed the whole thing. I let the list go. I was like, I need to. This is it. Like, burn it. It's gone. So we had the last event, and that was it. So, yeah.
And did you cry? Did anybody cry?
Yeah, pretty sure. We nearly had a wedding. There was nearly a couple that met. Many business deals, friendships that still formed. I still talk to a ton of people that used to come that I never met before, that I just met through Antiquoted. So, through Gastric Club.
The best relationships happen over food. It's a partnership, not over. So it happens over a coffee and over food.
Exactly. And this wasn't just a gender. So it was just, it wasn't business. It was just people. Anyone who wanted to come could come. So yeah, it was great.
That's amazing. I think that's something that I would definitely love to do.
Please do it. Would love it if you did it.
I would tell you, I would definitely share this with you. Man, I
love it. You please do it.
Oh yeah, please, do come. This we have really good food. It's just that I have a husband who's tired of traveling. He does not like to travel really long places for food. He says you get that same in the restaurant nearby. So I'm like, no, that is an authentic experience. We need to go and we still, we do it. We do go, but that's like once in a mean. Like we do make time, but most of the time, you're like if we once a quarter. I know, right? Like I could do it once a month and still get great food. I still pay only for my food and get to meet a lot of these amazing people. So when I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna copy a lot of. I'm copying two things from you. One is that the idea you gave me about addressing all FAQs. That's like a brilliant idea. Why didn't I think of it? I honestly do show because that's a very great one. Another thing. Wow. How would that article actually perform? That the FAQ one, how did it perform?
I don't know. It's been a series, but I've been doing it for my client for around probably over a year. So I presume it's doing well. I don't tend to see the metric side of things. They just commission me to write. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's doing well. But yeah, I don't know.
No, I'm sure it's doing well because just addressing all FAQs is satisfying SEO. You're making people, get real value. So I think that's a great. I'm copying that too. So just a quick heads up. So thank you so much, Kate. It was genuinely a pleasure talking to you. I did not feel it like it was my first. I just had a really good conversation. I did not feel like a podcast. I did not feel that. I just felt like I was talking to a friend about content and finding a little bit of AI and antiquoted and finally food. So it was a pleasure having you. I'm looking forward to talking to you again pretty soon. So thank you for coming on my this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me be the first. Great, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, you are the first. Yes. Yeah, as I told you, I wanted to go to your Antiquoted and find out for people for podcast. And I thought, no, let's ask her first. Ask her, and she says, no, then we'll go. We go and
I nearly told you you have to ask me through Antiquoted, and then I thought that's just mean. So, yeah, go and do an Antiquoted.
I would have because my next guest would be from Antiquoted. It's tough finding. Yes, it's tough finding people out here. It's really tough. I just asked few people and they said, okay, what is this about? What do you do? And you're the only one who said, okay, like I come on it. Like there's no questions asked. Just literally casted it too. Like seemed be fine. So yeah, I have to give it to you. So my next guest would be definitely some Antiquoted where I'm going to talk to them and tell them that hey, my first guest was Katie. So thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Enjoying the conversation. I hope it was the same for you.
I did. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I will keep you updated, Kelly, about that food club if and when it happens. But I will really guess with the idea.
Awesome.
Huh. All right. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.
Don't be a stranger. All right. Take care, Joe. Bye.
Bye.